Well, hi there, I'm Noah Bradley. This is Handmade House TV. And on today's episode, I'm going to continue answering viewer questions. And I've got some good ones, so stay tuned. Well, all right, once again, thank you for tuning in here to Handmade House TV. I've got some viewer questions here. I sent out a newsletter to everyone signed up for that, and I got back a pile of questions. And this will be the third video where I'm attempting to answer them. And some of these are really great questions, and I hope that you'll find something of value in them. So with that said, let's dive in. Here is one I thought of when I sent out my earlier email. Have you ever had the need to pin the corners of a cabin together to help them stay in place? And so what are your methods? My project logs are pretty light in weight, and some have changed a bit in shape. And I feel I may need to put some screws in place to coax them back into the sweet spot. Your insights are much appreciated. I guess perhaps somewhere in my career I did that, and I can say with absolute certainty that that I have worked on salvaged, restored vintage log cabins where there were clearly nails put in various spots, and I wondered why they might have been there. Sometimes log builders of old would actually spike the logs in place just so they would stay in place and wouldn't be bumped a little bit during the construction process, and they never went back to remove those particular nails. It would take a heavy-duty nail to coerce a log back into place. I would think you would need to physically force it to where you want it, and then to using something like a cant hook. And then once it got back into place, you could perhaps screw it to get it into place there. My overall recommendation is don't worry about it. That a little bit of twisting, a little bit of a notch opening up a quarter of an inch is just fine. Perhaps with time that the fibers in the wood will compress and that the log will seat more aesthetically appealing. Sometimes this little bit of gap in the space can create a little bit more air for air ventilation and not cause rot in the notch or something. I guess I wouldn't worry about it, and it's not a problem that I've often encountered. I've often wondered, next question is, I've often wondered about access to all of your videos. In the future, I reference them regularly, and I always wonder what I would do if your business situation changed. There is another, don't worry about that. There is another Noah in the upcoming next generation. He's in his 30s. He has assisted me on many projects. He is my go-to guy in the background as far as taking care of particularly the electronic stuff, but also he's a craftsman and an artist in his own right, and everything is in his name. He knows fully how to keep it all functional, and so I'm sure it'll be around for the next 50 years, and he has instructions to pass it on to grandchildren as well. So I hope that my legacy will live, so don't worry about that. Next question. Hi, Noah, have you ever done work on the West Coast? I've lived here my whole life and would love to follow in your footsteps, but so much seems different here. And I think the land is expensive, pretty much to the point of being unattainable. If you know that I'm in the humid Virginia East Coast, and boy, it's a sticky day today. I'm actually at my lake property. But I love the West Coast. My oldest son lives out that way. I get out there several times a year. It's absolutely gorgeous. Of course, there's always issues with every area of the country. But the West Coast is wonderful as far as land, and I can say that I get a lot of inquiries about people from the West Coast saying, do you know anybody here that can build in your manner? That I'd love to have them. So undoubtedly there's a demand for them out that direction as well. Depending upon which part of the West Coast, you're going to have varying degrees of challenging with building inspectors, but there's no reason why this technique couldn't be done anywhere at any time. And with regard to land being expensive, it's expensive everywhere. And the key thing to keep in mind is that it's never going to be less expensive. It's throughout my lifetime, I've always been shocked and amazed at how land keeps going up in price. I bought this particular 6-acre tract for $65,000 6 years ago. I shared it here with you guys here on YouTube, and nowadays I've had offers of it for over 200. So that's triple value in 6 or 7 years, whatever it's been. And I can say that if I didn't own land and this one was on the market somehow, some way, I would buy it because it's just not going to get any cheaper. As ridiculous as it sounds, very likely in 5 years it'll be a $500,000 property. They're not making any more of it, and I can say that during my lifetime there's been a rapid loss of rural property, of quality property, and that is that you really need to, if there's any way possible at all for you to lock into a piece of land, do it now, get the best one you possibly can, and never ever sell it. Even when you want to move on and go somewhere else, rent it. But don't let it go, because you'll thank me 1,000,000 times by the time you get my age. And so I encourage you to get your land and develop build that house, build that beautiful dream house. And if your desire is to perhaps follow in my footsteps as far as creating your own business, building handcrafted structures, thank you. You're doing the world a big service, and you're going to look back when you get my age back at what you chose in life as far as doing something alternative and making the world a better place. You're going to much more love that than perhaps spending your life working in a cubicle. Anyway, enough of that. And if I can help you anyway, let me know. So the next question is, how do I find someone in my area down in Texas who can actually repair hand-hewn log cabins? I have one that was built in 1841 and it needs repair. David, I get asked this question a lot, and have ever since I've made my online presence. And I think I even created a video on it, touching on this subject. How do I find a contractor? And the fact of the matter is, I don't know anyone, and I'm even hesitant to recommend the ones that I do know. There's only one that I would recommend for the possibility. He's here in Virginia, but the cost, and he would be willing to come to Texas in order to do it, but the cost is just enormous in doing something like that, where you have to pay for travel time and travel expenses, and to make it worth the hardship of leaving work here in Virginia and going to Texas in order to do it, or anywhere else, it's just you're going to end up doubling the cost, whereas if you found somebody local. And so my advice, if you need that person's name, just shoot me an email. But if you, and I think I've said this before, but if you're in a situation where you need someone to do it, there's a lot of people out there who are talented with working with wood, who are talented with building houses or doing stone work. They just don't have that final knowledge in order to do this specific skill set. And that was the whole purpose of me creating all of my online courses, was to pass on this skill set. So if I was in your shoes or anybody's shoes where they needed a structure built, the steps involved in it or restored is to sign up for my courses. And I'm not being salesy, but then you have access to all these courses, and you know that you have the knowledge in order to how to do it all. And then if you don't want to do it yourself, then find someone who is willing to do it, somebody who is talented, who has an interest in this, and then pass on the knowledge that you've learned in the course to them, and they should be able to do it. It's not rocket science, but there's a lot of techniques and skills and insights into doing restoration that people who don't do it don't know it. But if you pass that knowledge on, knowledge is power, and then you can get this work done. And if I can help you anyway, let me know. Next question. Hello, Noah. I wanted to say I loved the Stone Masonry Academy course. I'm in the process of practicing building a stone foundation for a tent platform out back. That's pretty cool. I lived on top of a tent platform myself for years. I also just built a stone mason table and I'm looking for rocks now to build my future fireplace. Excellent, excellent. If you want to create that future home of yours, start constructing it now. Even if you don't own your land, start accumulating your skills and techniques, and it helps to have a stone fireplace already assembled and ready to go into place. So these are wonderful steps you're taking. I'm planning on building a small 10 by 12 log cabin playhouse in my backyard, and I'm having a hard time to find logs. Another excellent step. Building a small log cabin 10 by 12 is very manageable. You'll learn all the techniques, and when it comes time to building that beautiful log home in the future, you'll have experience at it. You'll already have done it. You've already made all your mistakes, and then you can go move forward with confidence in building it. What a great thing to do. But I have having trouble finding my logs, and I contacted a few lumber stores and they seem to be not wanting to help. I'm looking for 7 to 9 inch logs, and I plan on stripping the bark and cutting the notches myself. My question is, what other places could I contact to help me get these logs? Okay. Your comment about stripping the bark yourself, if you're doing a hewn log cabin, such as I'm a proponent of traditional log home construction, it's amazing how once you finish hewing logs on 2 different faces, that most of the bark will have fallen off of the top and bottoms of the logs, and so really peeling logs is a minimal time-consuming and labor-consuming effort. So I hope you undertake that. Don't peel your logs before you hew them. You'll be spending a lot of wasted labor there. But 7 and 9 inch logs, I would try to encourage you to get larger logs than 7 and 9. I typically like a face of a log to be a minimum of 8 inches, and a 7 to 9 inch log is probably going to give you a 5 inch face. But for a small cabin like that, the logs will be lighter and they will look appropriately sized for that size. So you can probably get away with that, but you're just going to it would be nicer if you could get slightly bigger logs than that. And then where to get them, you do not want to be going to a lumber store to get logs for your log cabin. The best place, hands down, is at your local sawmill. Generally, every community has a sawmill. I live here in Central Virginia, and I can think of at least a dozen sawmills within an hour drive of here. And they will all do custom work for you as long as you're kind and thoughtful about it. If you don't know where it is, I have been known to trace down logger trucks. You get on the road, you see a truck with logs. There's generally a name on the side of it. You call those folks up. I've talked to them at gas stations or whatever. Sometimes you can buy the logs directly from the loggers and save yourself a chunk of change. Another place you could go is there's all kinds of marketplaces, from Craigslist to eBay to Facebook Marketplace. You can generally find logs on there. And then there's also calling up, say, the National Forestry Service, asking them for it. And then finally, one of the excellent is just look in your local directory or do a Google search for portable bandsaw operators. Generally, these guys are all over the place. They're looking for opportunities to cut logs. What a great job for them to have. Frequently, they have a supply of logs, or they know where a supply of logs is, or perhaps they can even harvest the logs off of your property and cut them up. So there's plenty of options out there. It looks like another part of the same question here. Also, if I want to build this 10 by 12 cabin, what lengths of logs should I get? I'm thinking of adding an extra 2 feet, or should I just make it 1 foot? The longer the better. I typically encourage people to get logs 2 feet longer than you think you'll need. Never fails that when you're setting them in place, there's a little bit of shifting from one end to the other. A lot of times the logs, when they're drying out, there's more checking and cracking at the last foot of a log. And also I like the ability to be able to adjust a log when I'm getting ready to put it up and create the notch on it, that it never fails that one of the notches ends up being right in the middle of a knot. And by having a little bit of extra long logs, you can slide that knot either in or out and not have to deal with trying to work through that knot. That's a pain. So that's a good question, Corey. Thank you much. Let's see. Hi, Noah, I'm glad to see you're back. Here is my question request. Can you please make a detailed video on how to attach a log cabin to the addition? Anyway, we covered that in the last one, so I must have repeated the question twice. Like I said, I think I got a half a dozen videos on that, and we covered that pretty well in our last video. And maybe that's time for us to, that's a good clue to let's take a break, and we'll continue with questions in our next video. So you guys, thank you for joining in. I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care. Bye now.